Speaking moistly, you're totally getting me higher.
Speak
Keep
2 meters
2 meters
apart,
apart.
spit on
Speaking
each
moistly.
other, speaking moistly.
Welcome everybody to Speaking Moistly. With me as usual on a Tuesday. Greg, how you doing, sir?
Good, good. We almost hit that harmony. We'll
Almost.
have
We
to
were
we'll
right
have to
there.
practice.
We
I'm
need it.
doing well,
Can you believe we didn't practice that beforehand? um,
Speak 2 meters apart, speaking moistly. Dun,
we'll
dun.
have the orchestra next time. So yeah, man, we were talking in the green room. We were talking. I did an interview with Chelsea Hillier last week. I don't have any big interviews scheduled for this week, but last week I did an interview with Chelsea Hillier, and it was a great interview. It was a lot of fun. We spent more time on flat Earth than I anticipated. I felt bad about that. I was like, I'm sorry, Chelsea. I didn't mean to. It came up organically. Is all I can.
I mean, I think I've said this on the show before, but conspiracy theories are just fun. They're so fun to talk about.
It is super fun.
There's,
So like the other
yeah.
day on my show, I was talking about dinosaurs, and I'm skeptical about. Okay, here's where my skepticism comes into play. It's basically first we found dinosaur bones, and then we reconstituted them exactly right enough to be like, this is 100% accurate, and definitely there's no room for discussion on this. This is 100% what it looked like. Done. And so I'm just skeptical about that, right? Like, also we've been told that the dinosaurs died, and that's how we have oil, but also we've got their bones. And I was like, there's a little bit of like inconsistencies there. And I've experienced science in the last 20 months, and I feel like science is kind of letting us down.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel
you were saying like, oh, well, this 10 out of 10 doctors believe in this early treatment, or they say it's
right.
not
Horse
good.
Yeah.
There is no early treatment for this virus.
Nothing
the doctor said so. The doctors also believe in dinosaurs everywhere.
Right. So like, it was one of those things. So somebody asked me on my forum today, like, do you you don't believe in dinosaurs? And I was like, well, no, it's not exact. I wouldn't say that I don't believe in dinosaurs. I would say that I'm skeptical.
Let me be clear. I am skeptical of aspects of the dinosaur lore and the dinosaur myth that we all believe.
The dinosaur myth, yeah.
The dinosaur myth.
Weren't they just dragons? No, I'm just skeptical. I'm just skeptical of the whole that we got it exactly right. Like, was a Tyrannosaurus Rex walking around the plains of Alberta at some point, 100 billion years ago?
I gotta say, this is the most electro-charged Speaking Moistly yet. We're on flat Earth.
Are dinosaurs real?
Tune in. Make sure you like and subscribe. This is what we're getting into today. I just want to emphasize
this is what our public health has done.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just think it's so much fun to venture into these conversations, only because it's it's just a fun thought exercise of what if?
Yeah, well, and I mean the thing is,
and then I've actually I haven't really looked into the dinosaurs thing, but I've heard of this whole theory.
Oh, there's a whole theory that birds aren't real. I don't I don't get that.
Which is true.
We eat birds.
They're holograms. No, they're holograms. It's true. Everyone knows that.
Conspiracy theory hour with
but yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there are kind of tiptoeing into this dinosaur thing is pretty fun, and then it gets weird because there's certain factoids we've never actually found an intact T-Rex skull before.
See, it's you find stuff like that.
Huh. Yeah, and it's wow, it just went from being kind of funny to this is little. I feel a little anxious now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. How far do you dip your toe into that before you're all right, well, I'm not gonna we're gonna watch Jurassic Park and I'm gonna feel better about it.
Yeah, it's would they do this just to sell plastic little lizards? I don't
know. He-Man was totally just 100% to sell toys. He-Man was created. This isn't a Netflix documentary, but
that's a little different though. That's a cartoon for kids
than dinosaurs.
Toys. This dinosaur one would be let's change history and our perception of the world to
have you lived
sell,
have you been
sell,
living through
sell a 1994 movie.
Have you been to sell a 90? Okay, that's a long game. That's a really long game.
That's the long game. Yeah, we're gonna release a movie in 1994.
In 1900, that's why we need to
make up these giant
dinosaurs.
Lizards. Yeah, giant lizards. Exactly. Think ahead, bro.
Godzilla? No, real giant lizards.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the whole point of bringing up flat Earth, and the whole point, well, my sister was worried that I was a flat earther, and so I tried to like not mess with her, but that's what brought up the conversation with Chelsea Hillier. But the whole reason that we talked about it,
Let me be clear. It's flat as a pancake. Now continue.
the whole point of it was we should be able to question, and it should be one, like, if this is like the problem for me is the accepted science after going through this COVID thing. Like, you can you can lie with statistics, you can make the science say pretty much whatever you want by strong arming the scientists, by owning the universities in a kind of, quasi, like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Like, if you say dinosaurs aren't real, then all that funding, right? And like,
No.
right. So I'm not like, I'm being funny to kind of prove a point. We should be able to question these things, but it's hilarious that these things are just like, on its face. Just the idea that we found these bones and we totally reconstitute them 100% right. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And, like, does it represent just like the best guess of humanity? I guess so, but we're all going to play the game that this is 100% right. And it's weird to me that science is unquestionable. And it's like, that's not really it.
The most interesting thing about like the flat Earth and the fake dinosaurs ideas is that it questions this fundamental truth that we have about the world, like this very fundamental truth that, like, we've all been, we live on a globe. There were these giant lizards running around, and like, to kind of even just like suggest that and like seriously kind of like, kind of play with that idea. It really is kind of like a cool exercise of thinking like what is possible, or what could be possible.
Well, I mean, you heard the rumor that humans had natural immunity. Like, that's ridiculous. The only way you get immunity is if by medication from pharmaceutical companies. Everybody knows that.
Right. And I think when you look at the crazy virus thing going on right now, it's, we're older, so we have a kind of more solidified view of the world. I've realized when I go around with no mask, or I do a mask around the chin a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And they'll say, hey, can you put it above your chin? It's like, I got the mask. Like, can you put it above their chin? It's like, I'm just going to slip it down once I walk away. I tell them that. And they're like, well, could you just, and I'm like, whatever, like, this is such a charade.
Yeah.
But I've realized it's the young people who are the most like, can you put this over your head? Can you put the, please?
Power.
Yeah, like, you need to do this.
They don't have they don't have power independently, right?
But more importantly, though, and I was talking to another friend. I apologize if I mentioned this last week, but he's from like Albania or something, and he was saying like, he was like, Greg, I'm more worried about the 15-year-olds today and what they're going to be like in 4 years, because if they kind of take on this, like, unvaccinated people are like killing people, and then it's like, hey, you're part of the police force now, and then the legislation has changed a certain way to be like, okay, if you're unvaxxed, then like shoot on sight, or like that. That's kind of when we like run into problems 4 years down the road, and these people have been indoctrinated from a young age, where their worldview is not yet, it's very moldable still.
Yep.
And it gets really creepy when you go into, and I'm sure you can think of tons of examples off the top of your head, but like you were saying, natural immunity, they're learning, kids are learning this idea that you're not safe unless you have a mask on when you go outside.
Well, kids
and for us, we understand that, like, maybe there's an aspect of that because blah, blah, blah. But for them, it's like life or death. Like, it's a lot more of a fundamental truth that like doesn't have any nuance to it.
Kids are learning though too. The boys could be girls and girls can be boys. That's not true, right? Like, that's not true. I don't know any surgery. Like, we can change certain things. We can cut off a penis and we can give people a proximity to a vagina and stuff. But somebody hasn't played Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
right. But there's like, there's hormones and stuff. So like, people are being like, we're joking about flat Earth and we're joking about dinosaurs and we're talking about it in a way to illustrate, but there are big lies being told to our children about the way the world is and the way the world works that are just as big as those things. And the reality is, like, I don't give a shit if the Earth is flat. I think I said this in the other podcast with Chelsea. Like, it doesn't mean anything to my life daily or whatever. Like, it won't change my day-to-day anything. Like, oh, if I walked up to somebody and said the Earth is flat, and they're like, yeah, so I'd be like, right, yeah, well, so right, exactly, who cares? Right? Like, what's the big deal? Right? Is there a big deal about that? I don't care. It doesn't matter. So like, but there are things that we're being told that do matter, and we're getting told, and you can't question it. and that's really, I mean, that's a weird place to be, right? Like, so, you know, you get laughed at if you talk about dinosaurs, and you get laughed at if you talk about flat earth. But if you question transgenderism or anything to that effect in that, you know, category or anything like that, boom, all bets are off. Right. And it's the same thing as COVID. If you start saying horse dewormer, right, boom, done. That's a really weird place to be. So why does that not apply to the other big questions that we've had in society? So
and I feel like, you know, I'm not a doctor. I'm you know, fairly good friends with a doctor, and I ask him about all this stuff. And we watched a redacted video last night on Rumble, and I think it's Peter McCullough or Peter McLaughlin, I forget. But he was kind of going off, like, you know, the whole list of things that's, like, you know, are completely wacko. And I think this really applies to the medical field right now. Like there's a lot of really things that have never happened before. You know, whether it's CDC changing the definition of what being vaccinated means, and taking out the word immunity, kind of a big deal. And then also the fact that like treating a virus, like it's not being recommended to like treat a virus early on. Like in the history of medicine, like this has never happened before.
Well, but hold on though. If you had go back in time with me, remember with me in 2015 or 2014, if you had like a cold and stuff, you go to the doctor, you're like, doctor, I'm so little coughing, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, that's a virus. We can't do anything for you. Like, we can't do anything for you. Now they're like, listen, we want to jab you, and we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to investigate it. If we investigate it, we're not going to investigate it with good faith. We're going to destroy these trials as much as we possibly can, except that, and we're going to ignore places where it looks like there's a success. Like there's places in India, Japan has also had a success with horse dewormers and other things. But so to me, again, like it lends credence to my skepticism. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just a crazy guy in my garage. It could be. That's just fine.
No, I mean, yeah, it's hard to talk about on this platform, quite frankly.
It is. Well, on YouTube,
like, you know, we want to keep our channel here.
Indeed.
And we don't, this, like, YouTube's not really a free platform, unfortunately.
No, not
Express
anymore.
yourself with like a huge asterisk next to it. Don't talk about this. And it's like, hey, we're not political. By the way, if you have this specific opinion, then you're not allowed to share it. And
right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Not political. Got it.
Right. Did you, changing gears, two things. One quick thing. Did you see the Let's Go Brandon? I started my show with the Let's Go Brandon hip hop track.
I didn't see the hip hop track, but I've heard the meme, of course. It's
really, you should watch the hip hop track.
No offense, it's getting kind of stale.
I don't like that. I don't even like hip hop. And I was like, just the thing that impressed me about it was the fact that he layered the crowds like Joe Biden chant, like the F Joe Biden. And then he layered the chick saying, "Let's go, Brandon." And then he just, I mean, he basically had OBS and a Yeti microphone, and boom. I'm sure he's like a more popular rapper than that. But I was watching his music video. I was like, I could have done this, with the exception of the rapping, because I don't like rapping. Maybe, do you want to start a barbershop quartet?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, it'll be a duet. First. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. The other thing, have you? We'll have to practice that more. We'll start a different channel. We need 2 more for the quartet.
Let's do it.
The Tomorrow War is a movie. It just came out, I think, on Amazon or something like that. And it's got Chris Pratt, or Zach. It's not Zach Braff. Chris. He's the guy from Park and Rec. Doesn't matter. And the whole premise of this movie is that they come back from the future. So the 2022 World Cup game, these people from the future show up and they say, "Hey guys, there's aliens and we're losing. And we are recruiting you guys to come back with us and fight this war." So yeah, that's the end. And so the whole movie is like, they recruit people, and the whole idea is they recruit people who are going to die before that anyway. So like, humanity's not losing out, I guess. So the main character gets recruited and blah, 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 blah. But the whole point is this predictive programming of hopelessness. Like basically, spoiler alert, but by the end of the movie, like looks like the humans lose, and their link to the future is cut off. And so the humans have now start riding. They're like, well, if humanity's going to be wiped out in like 30 years, what's the point, right? And then
Mm.
the movie ends and whatever. But there's like they win. Spoiler alert again. They win, but the whole movie is humanity's
You're
doomed.
you're
type
ter-
deal.
you're terrible with this spoiler. Like,
Yeah,
bruh.
yeah. I'm terrible at what?
The
Describing.
spoiler alerts. They win in the end. Oh yeah, spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, sorry.
You did that
Blah blah blah.
backwards.
But the point was more the demoralization of like watching the movie, the demoralization of the population mirrors kind of what I think that they're hoping to kind of quell. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
or not quell, encourage.
when it comes to that, like, there's probably truth in that, I guess, but it's also hard to say because I feel like that's something where you could, like, there's movies about tragedy, there's movies about, horrible things happening, and TV shows and all that. And could it be part of, like, psychological warfare to demoralize people? Yeah, it probably could be. But I don't know. I guess I'm at the point where it's like I think there's I just choose not to dwell on thinking about that, I guess. Because it's like I'm watching Squid Game right now. And there's like, is this predictive programming that will all be like pitted against one another in a gladiator style, like, crazy Korean complex where we have to like wake up like jail inmates each day and play these children games or else we die. I, Probably not. Like, it's just like I'm just gonna enjoy the show. You know what I
Enjoy the
mean? I'm just gonna enjoy the show for what
I
it
don't.
is. And
I
then,
literally close
you know,
my eyes when it gets violent in shows that I'm watching, just because I'm like, I'm not.
you
I'm
wouldn't
not.
be able. Yeah,
This wouldn't be something that I'm interested in.
it's the Squid Game has a Tarantino flavor at moments. It's very, very gory and very
Yeah.
like.
See, Tarantino's. I wouldn't close my eyes at the end of like Once Upon a Time in the West. No, that's not the one where he was with
Yeah, that's him. Once
is
Upon
it
a Time in Hollywood.
Django Unchained. That's when it was. No,
Right,
Once Upon a
right.
Time in the West was different. Django Unchained is what I was thinking of. But like Django Unchained didn't bother me. Like the blood was like literally spurting out, but it was like comedic, right? Like the guy lost his arm and like there was so much blood, it was crazy, and like so much blood, it was.
Did you see Kill Bill?
I saw Kill Bill. Yeah, I felt like I was younger then. I didn't have kids yet. That makes things different. It really does. It does. It makes things different. Because all of a sudden, well, and yeah, when you have young kids, it's a different thing, right? When kids are independent and like on their own kind of deal, you're still responsible, but they're doing their thing. But once you're young kids are a different thing.
Can I bring up a topic? It's something that's been bothering me when it comes to Canadian politics.
All right.
I tweeted about this the other day, but the media complex in Canada is bringing up this like Tofino vacation still.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is so deplorable because they're basically saying, wow, this is like the latest Trudeau scandal. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're going to compare like what basically looks like, huge ethics violations, SNC level in what looks like, what would you call it? Bribery or what have you. And then also a We Charity scandal, nearly like a $1 billion scandal, paying off public servants. Also, I like how censoring all of the information, covering it up. Like, these are scandals. And now the media is like, yeah, his latest scandal. It's like missing a meeting is not a scandal. Okay. How dare you compare these? It's like so disgusting what they're doing. Cause like people don't question this. And it's like, what's happening is like totally twisted. And it really it really only confirms just how complicit every single journalist in this country is to just cover for this guy. Yeah.
Well, okay. But I'll counter with, if you start going after Trudeau, or like Catherine McKenna's husband did, Scott, what's his name? Scott, it's not Scott McKenna, it's Scott somebody else. Doesn't matter. He went after Trudeau a little bit, but if you start doing that, then your biggest, the newspaper's biggest customer, which is the government, starts getting upset, right? And the infrastructure is, it's not in place for the obvious, like Rebel's not going to become, in my opinion, like the next Toronto Star, right? Like the heir apparent has not become apparent, right? And so I agree with you that the media is totally like bought, like it's bought by the government. It's propaganda 100%. But like, what did the Chinese media do? Like, has it collapsed under its lies yet? Right? Or is it just like everybody understands it's the lie of the day? Right? Like that's,
Yeah, but I see the reason I bring it up is to kind of just emphasize to people like how bullshit it is what they're saying on this particular topic.
but it's
Because
bullshit, everything. Like,
yeah, but dude, not everybody thinks that. Like if there's anything that our
yeah.
media is actually doing well in terms of being a propaganda arm, is they do this dance where they make it seem like they are being critical of what's going on.
Mhm.
And they do it on like
Well, this is a
this.
perfect example of that.
Yeah, and they do it on this like 6 to 9 month cycle where it's like 6 to 9 months late, where it's like, okay, we're going to introduce the CERB program and make it available for 15-year-olds. And then a year later, they're like, wow, this was available to 15-year-olds. Like, look at all this like money now. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, why? So why, hey, media, why are you talking about that a year after like you knew that?
Yeah.
And that constantly,
Well, I
that
mean,
constantly
part
happens. You see it
part
all the
part of
time.
that is bad media. Part of that is like the click driven headline. Like media, the media
Right.
landscape has
But it's
massively
like,
changed.
but like it, we all want to know what the solution is, right? Like we're all
Mhm.
trying to find out what the solution is. And I really feel like what's right in front of us, which is continuing to hold the media to account and the conservative party to account, because they unfortunately lull us to sleep with this idea that they're doing their job when they're not.
Mhm.
And if there's anybody who is supposed to be our saviors, it's investigative journalists and it's the opposition. And
But
of course we know that's not true, but it's like
so right.
until regular everyday people start to continually like undermine them and, I don't know, continually kind of like, raise our pitchforks up at them, then it's like, I don't know what's going to change.
But if you get, okay, so like I hear what you're saying, but if you get, say I get a juicy story that's like gonna bust the Trudeau administration wide open, right? Somebody
Right.
gets paid off, or the story gets buried. Like how many, there were stories, Hunter Biden comes to light. Now they're reporting on Hunter Biden, like you said, a year later, right?
Yep.
Almost a year later to the day, right? The
Yep.
October Hunter Biden story thing is happening again. So now they're reporting on Hunter Biden. Now it's a problem. Wasn't a problem before the presidential election back then. And it's virtually the same thing. If you've got a bombshell story that is uncomfortable for Joe Biden, the media will jump on it and watch the grenade explode. And then the CNN corpse will lay there for a little longer than the Fox News corpse. But fundamentally, everybody goes back to business as usual and pretends that that explosion didn't go off, right? And they dust off their jackets and hold up CNN and carry on to put out the fake news because they know which side their bread is buttered on, right? And it's the government side. So, like, I not that I see it for what it is, but I showed a clip of CTV this morning talking about vaccination rates and in the vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And the vaccinated were 25% of the total numbers, 104 out of 393 or something like that. Or there were 104 and there's 393, doesn't matter. And they said, you have to look at these rates based on 100,000, like based on cases per 100,000. So if you're vaccinated, cases per 100,000, it's only 2%. But if you're unvaccinated or this other group, it's this higher percent. And basically, they weren't giving enough information to draw the conclusions, in my opinion, that they were drawing. And when you try and dig into that, if you have a bombshell thing, they'll just ignore it. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same kind of. It's the same kind of. Well, I mean, does masking work? It's never worked in the history of humanity up until 2020. And before that, there was, policy level science done that said it didn't work. It didn't work to the effect of having two courts strike it down in Toronto in 2015 and again in 2018. So even if you've got it, they don't care. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know that going after the media, like
Who's they? What do you mean they don't care? Who's
the
they?
media, whoever's greenlighting the,
Right.
I think it's a shape shifting.
Because they've been compromised. I'm not trying.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that the media is going to start doing their job suddenly.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to encourage, the lions to rise up
Mm.
and to kind of empower them to, call them out and say, yeah, this isn't this. this isn't legitimate. This isn't like, this is propaganda essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that it's easy for us to kind of intuitively know that and be not afraid to say that. But
Mhm.
I
Well,
think that continually doing that is part of the solution. Like
yeah.
continually kind of because we don't know what's going to happen next, and we need to kind
No.
of keep pushing in the right direction.
One of
And
the
yeah, I think being satisfied with our fake journalists is
well, I'm not satisfied.
that's just a different form of demoralization, though,
Yeah, that's true.
because I think it takes many forms.
One of the reasons that we know this though is because we experienced it though. Just to give some context, like I had newspaper articles misquote me to make me sound like I talk like a caveman. And I was like, listen, I have a bit of a stutter, and I do have a bit of a stutter. But I said, misrepresenting what I'm saying in this way makes you look foolish. Like this was back in 2019. So I call people fake news because when you know something about what they're printing in the news and you're like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
You can be assured that you're right and they're wrong. And so when I look at things, I'm not trying to casually cast stones. I'm looking at it and going, these people either don't understand that they're telling a falsehood or they're blatantly telling a falsehood. Either way, they should know.
Right.
So, yeah.
I wrote just a simple 2-line meme yesterday. It was journalists in the 1950s. I am here to investigate the facts. Journalists in 2020. I am here to take live stream clips out of context to make people look racist.
Yes, indeed. Definitely true. I was saying to Chelsea Hillier, I was like, I can't wait to find out like how hardcore of a flat earther I am. So I'm interested in like the interpretation, if there's any at all.
The greatest hits, as they call them.
Yeah,
what are your greatest hits, Mark? have you had a greatest hits article written about you?
No, I don't. Well,
and he's a flat earther, and he's
no, and they always go.
And then one time he said this about trans people, and then one time he said this about QAnon, and then one time he said this about Donald.
No, Trump. I put out so much content that they can't keep up. They don't watch me. They can't because they're like, oh my, it's too much. But no, the thing that stayed up the longest was that I was a white supremacist, which I thought was super funny. And I'm like, I'm not like that at all. Number one, like that. What does that even mean? Like, I'm not like the fictional.
I heard you. I heard you have a picket fence outside, and guess what color it is? It's white. You have a white picket fence outside, which is a dog whistle of the far alt-right.
I've heard that.
The far right extremist alt-right.
Anybody? I think that anybody with kids is a alt-right, are they? That's
I was there on January 6th.
Oh my gosh. What? Holy cow. I'm half expecting you to get swatted now.
I threw the stones at Trudeau. No, I wasn't there. But
no, either.
I
was gonna say, I think this is probably a good place to end it. So last words, where can they find you?
They can find me on my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe. You can find me on Instagram also at Greg Wycliffe, one word. And then I'm on Twitter and TikTok at GDub, GDDUB. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Nice. And you can find me at CanadaPoly.com, CanadaReport.co, and SpeakingMoistly.co. You'll find our back catalog and interviews I've done with various people. And again, the reason that I do this, I think, is because conversations like this are worthwhile. Pointing out what we see. Greg and I are not influenced by Vanguard or BlackRock or anybody else to have our views that I know of, Greg. No, and I think that having these honest conversations is a good way to keep a pulse on what's happening in Canadian culture in 2021. Because, man, we're living it, right? We're right on the bleeding edge. So. This is what people think. And I think that's really interesting. So Greg, thanks for your time. And those people out there watching, thanks for your time. And we'll see you next time.